Well, thank you very much for inviting me to speak about the In-kind program. I carefully engineered the dramatic pause at the beginning there to get you excited about this program. There's a bunch of people named on here without whom the In-kind program wouldn't even exist, and they are amazing team, and I'm very pleased to be working with them. So I'm Aprajita Verma. My position in Rubin is to lead the In-kind team. Which in itself is an in-kind contribution from the UK. So there's a little bit of circularity there. Oh, sorry. Okay, so again, because some of you may be new to Rubin, apologies to those of you who are very familiar with the In-kind program or indeed part of it. But essentially, the In-kind program for Rubin was set up during the change in the funding model for the telescope, but it allows us to meet the basic criteria that we want to have international diverse community working with Rubin. So teams were invited to either offset operations cost or expand resources that are available to the US and astronomy and HEP communities. We currently have 43 individual international teams from 28 countries who are providing over 150 contributions. So it's a really impressive and large program. And that's basically in exchange for data rights for LSST. They're managed by an in-kind team that I just spoke about, and we sit under the Rubin Rubin Operations Director's Office. And again, just to reiterate, so really this enables us to have Rubin as a wide international community. I keep pressing the clicker, which it doesn't work. So this is just a little overview of what the In-kind program is. So I was asked to kind of just talk through the different kinds of contributions. Some of these will be more relevant for this meeting versus others, but essentially you see it's quite diverse, starting with the green box up here. So we've got Rubin operations, that includes data processing in France and the UK, and other contributions. Right at the top there, we have international data access centers that just came up with Jelko's talk. So essentially that also has processing that I'll come to a bit later. We also have data sets that I'll talk about. We have 270 FTE years of software contributions. We have various telescope time contributions, also contributions to commissioning the telescope and the data verification processes, and there's various facility enhancements as well. So there's really quite a broad program of work here. Just to give you an idea of what that actually breaks down in value. So the black numbers you see on the pie chart there are actually $1 million. So in total, this is about a $295 million contribution to operations. And that's split between those different things that I just spoke about. But I just wanted to point out a few things that I'm going to cover today. So there's also been a lot of supporting meetings that are linked in the slides that I'll talk about in a moment. So when you get the slides, and I'll also put them on Slack, if you want to follow up any of these links, please do go and see. So we're going to talk quite a lot about telescope time. And indeed, Rachel organized an excellent telescope time kickoff workshop in September last year. Computing resources, as we mentioned, will enhance that 10% of the processing, as well as data access through the international IDACs. And software development by far is one of the largest contributions, and in fact, it's the bulk in number of European contributions going into Rubin. On the right here, you see a table that essentially just shows you those kinds of contributions that are actually going not to the observatory, but to the system of science collaborations for Rubin, of which there are 8 or 9, but I can't count quite quickly now. But essentially, there's a lot of value also going into the science collaborations to produce either infrastructure, but also for dedicated telescope time and other resources. Okay, so this is just a kind of schematic that was put up in this future of astrophysical data infrastructure. Essentially, this is kind of the sorry, I don't think the clicker's working, cycle of observations for any astrophysical system. And the in-kind program essentially adds to this in this area. So we have the in-kind telescope time contributions helping with the observations. We have the operations in time that are going towards the things that you see in this parallelogram there. We also have the IDACs going into data analysis as well as reduction and archiving. And then we have the in-kind software going particularly into data analysis for the science collaborations. And then we're going to hear about tomorrow more about the community brokers. So in essence, this is a Rubin view of what this astrophysical process is. And obviously the follow-up elements that we're going to talk about at this meeting are really critical to what we're going to discuss, but also what the brokers provide and what resources we have available. So I'm going to start going through these different types of contributions, starting off with the telescope time, which obviously is, I think, of most interest to the people here. So we have various facilities being offered to the Rubin community. So this is just a table showing what's currently as part of the in-kind program. These are made available to NOIR via the in-kind contributions. It includes 14 nights of 8 to 10 meter time, hundreds of hours per year on 1.5 to 4 meter telescopes, and thousands of hours on smaller facilities. While this is a significant amount, it's also remarkable that it's actually not what we need. It's far less than what we actually need to follow up Rubin targets. But this is currently the status of what we have. And obviously we'll align the timeline of this time that's available to the LSST survey schedule. So how will this be allocated? So as I mentioned, it's all through NOIR. Most of the time we'll go through its usual time allocation process. There may be some reserved time for survey programs. There are some of those contributions that aren't going through the NOIR TAC, but will have alternative proposal routes. That includes the GTC time. But one thing to note is it will follow NOIR's normal policy of open access. So the time that's requested is not limited to Rubin science. And again, Rachel has been instrumental in setting up these telescope time contributions, both as her time as working on the telescope time subcommittee for the contribution evaluation committee, but also through her role at Aon. So most of the contributions we have are aligned to deliver Aon integration. That basically allows us to really make maximal use of the time. It will have advantages in enhancing how we define the observations, as well as data retrieval, rapid access, access to the reduced data, and the associated documentation. And again, I'll point out the observatory workshop that Rachel organized with Steve Markheim, one of the international program coordinators. And that has a huge amount of information on how Aon is going to help and work with Rubin data. We talked just a moment ago about target of opportunity. So again, Aon helps us do this. Most of the facilities are offering TOO access, some with rapid follow-up, some with dedicated nights. But again, the integration is crucial to the long-term success of the TOO program. Just an advertisement. So currently, I'll come back to this at the end of the talk. So we are looking at expansions to the program, and one of those is additional telescope time. This is an opportune place to make this a statement, but essentially any telescope time is requested. Time on 4 to 8 meter telescopes is prioritized. And while I've talked about Aon, it is preferred, but it's not required. So again, connection to the system would be great, but it doesn't mean that shouldn't be inhibit any offers of additional time. So for those of you with telescope time sitting in their pockets, please get in touch. Moving on to data sets. So we have these kind of data projects that complement LSST data, but they were not acquired specifically for LSST or for their alerts, so not through follow-up programs. These again will be available to everyone with Rubin data rights, and the access varies from the data set to data set, but they will be available from some of the data centers. It's not quite clear which, but certainly they will be available to the Rubin community. Here's just a summary of some of those. So you'll recognize some of these facilities here. We have the ones with the red boxes around them are European contributions. So we have some eRosita. There's a mixture of LSST cross-match data sets and also follow-up and process data sets that will come through the lifetime of LSST. This includes, for example, the supernovae light curves, LSST MIGHTY match data, and there's also near-infrared data fusion with VISTA data. So there's a whole bunch here. Again, I'm just going to flash up a few of these titles, but obviously there's no content in them. If you want to find out about any of these individual contributions, please just come and chat to me later. And as I mentioned, software is by far the largest. So the idea being that this really is the infrastructure that allows the science to take place, or at least complements what the science collaborations have already put in place to increase the resources they have to exploit LSST data. This also is it's not just the science collaborations, it also goes into the observatory, but essentially, again, you see kind of the distribution per group there on the right, but it's really a way of providing infrastructure that can be used by anyone within the Rubin community and to enhance the data product. And there you see here a bunch of nations that are involved. They're usually at institutional level rather than national, and then all those in bold are from the European community. The software contributions that we accepted come in 3 flavors. Directable being the first, where in all cases the teams are expected to be fully engaged with their recipient teams. Directable means the recipient team has the overall say on how that work is going. They direct that work. Non-directable is the second type, which is essentially delivery of a product. But again, the team should be engaged in matching the needs of the recipient group. We also have general pool software developers. So these are basically software experts who are available for any project that comes along. And through a call, we collect those projects and try and match up the developers to those projects. So they're the kind of software contributions that we accepted. And here's again a European view of some of those. Again, this is by no means complete, but you can see kind of very different and varied software contributions. So at the top we have the TOM system for TVS. We have pipeline development in various collaborations. We have the solar system, Atlas system that Colin and Meg are leading. So there's again a wide variety of kinds of contributions that are being made to help Rubin. I'm probably going to skip through this, but essentially I just wanted to point out that these again are meant to be developed collaboratively with high standards, and that they are basically public to at least the collaboration while they're being developed, if not developed fully on a public platform, and will be publicly available by the time of the first publication that's using that software. Okay, we talked again just a bit earlier about computing resources. So there is a distributed network of what we call international data access centers, as well as the scientific processing centers and the data facilities. So we have data access in Chile and the US. We have full independent data access centers in Canada and the UK. And then we have a light version of the independent data access center, which essentially means it's only part of the Rubin products that are hosted. most of these, as well as Croatia that's listed there, do offer some compute time. And there was a question about whether the, oh, I just realized that this map didn't really come out, but never mind. That there is essentially compute time to allow for computations above Rubin's 10%. I'm also not quite sure if that includes the UK and France, but I believe it doesn't. So I think the 10% will be enhanced through not only the light IDACs, but also through the full data facilities. Again, there's a huge amount of work gone into this, particularly by Knut Olsen from the In-kind team. And there was recently a software needs workshop that he led in March, which has nearly 50 use cases for how we might use these data access centers and the compute power for those individual sites cases. And again, I'll post the link to that workshop and the resulting tech note in Slack. So essentially, the point here is that you can easily access any of the data. You can access the processing time, and it's essentially, the IDACs, it's still not worked out yet, but we could tailor particular IDACs to meet particular science opportunities. We can also support these kind of merged data sets as well as the LSST data. Essentially, these IDACs are to serve the whole community. They're not there to serve their local or national communities. This is a resource for the whole Rubin community. And again, it's an opportunity where we may be tailoring different services to different IDACs. So we're expecting the IDACs to be in operation at the start of DR1. These links, again, are all those that I just mentioned. So again, you'll get these on Slack. But essentially, if you're interested, there's a community forum on the Rubin community, and there's also on the Slack space a dedicated coordination group if you want to get involved. We also have commissioning contributions. So we have 9 contributions from 6 programs. That includes France, Italy, Spain, and the UK, who are working with Željko and his team, as well as with Keith Bechtold and the Sitcom team. That includes both the AUXTEL, as well as preparations for verification and validation with the main Rubin data. This is a huge community. You see the announcement of opportunity up there. That actually went out to everyone and resulted in a huge number, a great team that is meeting regularly to maximize the commissioning activities. Okay, so that brings me to the summary. So don't be scared by this plot on the right. This is just the lifetime of an in-kind contribution. What I haven't done in this talk is really talked about how we manage the program, but this gives you a flavor of the kind of annual steps in this central part of what it takes to manage a program like this. This is per contribution, a typical lifetime. But essentially, I can see the URL is cut off at the top. Again, I'll put that in Slack. But the contributions are progressing well. They're delivering value to the Rubin ecosystem. And again, we're meeting that goal to build an international and diverse community. The data rights agreements are currently in their final approval stages with NSF and DOE. We are developing plans for further in-kind program contributions. And again, as I mentioned earlier, this is very much dependent on the resource needs of the recipient groups. So any expansion that we're considering really is focused on those needs. And any new contributions will be limited and targeted towards those needs. And then just for the context of this meeting, while I've shown you that we have a wide variety of telescope time resources in addition to LSST, it's clearly insufficient, and there's a lot of work and time to be done to meet those follow-up needs. And again, another plug, if you have your telescope time hanging around, please think about offering it to Rubin. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much.